Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. In today's video, we're going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into the making of the next version of Global War 1914. This would be version 3.0. So like here, you're looking at version 2.0 of the random events. And today's video, we're going to key on one of the random events that we kind of stumbled across in our last playtest, and we thought, you know what, we could do this a lot better than what it is. And man, I thought it worked out really, really well. And so I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here, show you what we did. So we go to the spring of 1915. Actually, before I go there, I just want to say something. Like the random events here, if you played the game, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, let me just explain to you. These are events that either did happen and were too small to script into the game, or were events that could have happened. You know, there was some tension there, and you know, it could go this way, could go that way, and you know, with a little bit of cajoling, then maybe something would have happened, right? And so this would be one of those ones, one of the latter events, where there was, this is called ABC Pact failure, this event. So there was an ABC Pact. It stands for Argentina, Brazil, Chile. And they had formed a pact. They actually mediated an agreement between the United States and Mexico in Niagara Falls in 1914. And so they thought, hey, this is great, you know, like all this cooperation, because there was some tension between those nations before that, right? And but in the end, when it came to ratifying this agreement, only the Brazilian parliament ratified it. The Argentinians and the Chileans did not ratify it, and it never did lead to a war, and that's why we're not going to script this in. This is something that could have happened if, you know, like say if the Germans got a little bit more involved and got the Argentinians and the Chileans on their side a bit more, maybe push them towards war with Brazil, because the Americans were, the Americans were definitely on the Brazilian side, right? But anyway, let me just show you here. So you go to the spring of 1915, that's when it happened. It was in May of 1915. Here we go. So ABC Pact failure. Argentina and Chile aligned to Germany, and Brazil aligns to the USA. Control if the USA is not at war with a major power. And so this is where things kind of fall apart for us here. Like the original intent of this was to have a little war down in South America between three of the more powerful nations down there. And just when you apply it to the rest of the rules of the game, like this one, where they align to Germany, but they don't align, Brazil does not align to the Americans, because the Germans will be at war at this time, spring of 1915. But the Americans will, I can't see any scenario in which the Americans are at war at this point in time in the game. And so that's where things kind of fall apart as far as playing this out. Because what happens in this scenario is that you would replace the Argentinian and the Chilean units with German units, and then you would place German roundels down on all of those territories. So the Americans, because there's two nations there, they get 3 IPP per nation for their peacetime income. So the American peacetime income goes up by 6, and then they would go up even more if the Argentinians and the Chileans don't take those boats away from South America. Like they have to move one more space away from South America. And then, you know, like they're not going to attack the Brazilian boats, right? They're going to go after British boats or somebody else's boats. And you're not really going to get that war, which is what I think was intended. I didn't make this one up, so I don't know. But it seems to me that that's what they really intended, was for there to be this conflict between those three nations down there. And it kind of falls apart that way. But because we can make rules for the random events that supersede the rules of the game, then we can change that. Like it does tell you right in the rules in this booklet here that follow the rules of the game unless it's specified otherwise. So we'll change this and we'll specify it to say what we want it to say. Let's just follow along here and see what happens. So Argentina and Chile are at war with Brazil, even if they're aligned control powers or not. That's just a statement. add one infantry to each territory each nation owns. So you get an infantry on every territory. Then you get an Argentinian dreadnought and a Brazilian dreadnought placed into the game. So anyway, let's just go over there and see what all of this is going to look like. So this is what South America looks like before any of that happens. You've drawn that event, and this is what it looks like. Now what it's told us to do here is to place an infantry on each territory. So we're going to place an Argentinian. There's 3 territories, so they get 3 infantry. And and Chile gets an infantry. I don't have another one painted, so let's just put this chip down. And then Brazil, there's 4 Brazilian territories, so let's just place them. You might notice that there's actually an extra militia in here in the Brazilian territory. That's because one of the changes that we're making in the game is that all the things that get added later, like you see in the neutral setups, there's add this in 1915 or add this in 1916 or whatever. We're going to add all of those units at the beginning of the war. Not in the prequel. They won't be there in the prequel, but in the turn that World War I begins, all those units would be added. And the only one here would be this militia here. So anyway, this is what it looks like, and this is what they wanted you to start off with. And like I said, you would just exchange all these guys for Germans, and that would be the end of that. You probably wouldn't have much of a conflict down there. So we decided, hey, let's make it so that these don't become German. Let's say that everybody stays Brazilian, Argentinian, or Chilean until the Americans and Germans go to war with each other. So this could still be going on, in which case you just replace the units that are left with German and American units, or it could have ended. It could have ended 2 or 3 turns before the Americans go to war. They would still remain whatever they were, like Argentinians or Brazilians or whatever, right? They would just stay like that until the Americans go to war, and then you would change them over and put the American or German roundel on there. And there was, forgot about this. Don't forget about the dreadnoughts. That's an actual Argentinian dreadnought. This is an American one, but there is a Brazilian one. I do have it in my cart. I'm going to get it. And then, so that's the way it starts off for this war. But we thought, hey, can't we spice that up a little bit? Like, for one thing, you look here. The only territory, the only place where they can cross into each other is right there, because they can't go through these other territories. Like minor powers can't declare war on other minor powers. This war has already been declared, but like Argentina couldn't declare war on Bolivia. It's just not possible in the rules of the game. So why don't we just put a transport down for each side? Wouldn't that be cool? That'll spice things up a bit. Now they can go around each other, right? And all that's there is just infantry. So what if we threw down an artillery for each one of them? There we go. Get an Argentinian artillery, and we'll get a Brazilian artillery, and there you go. We're not going to put that one down for the Chileans, though, because that would unbalance it. Right now it is balanced. Each side has the same number of units, basically. So this would be balanced pretty much. And so you would fight this war like this. And like I said, you would go till the Americans declare war on Germany. Or Germany declares war on America. It could happen either way, right? And that could happen, but that's not going to happen until the Americans are getting near 37 IPP in their peacetime income. Otherwise, the Germans are just crazy for doing that. And I'll show you what happened in our playtest. I had it all set up, and I did that video before this one, just so I wouldn't have to reset it up afterwards. It was just easier doing that way. But anyway, so this I think will be a lot more interesting to play it out this way. And I guess I should mention, so you will be doing recruitment roles for them. So the Argentinians, they have 3 territories. The Chileans have 1 territory, so that's 2 different recruitment roles. The Brazilians, they have 4 territories, but they also have this one too, that's 5. So you'll count that one as well. But we're not going to put an infantry there because, like, if these guys lose their transport, then there's no way this war is going to end, because in order for the war to end, you have to take out all of their units, right? Or all of the Brazilian units in order to do that. Ground units, and like if you had an infantry sitting here, then how could that ever end? So we're just going to count the units that are on the mainland, even if the Brazilians do decide to put one over here, or the other side decides to put one over there. We're only going to count the units that are on the mainland. You just have to take out all of those units in order to end that war. But there will be that recruitment role, and these guys will go on the Germans' turn, of course, and they can do it in whatever order they want. They can do the Chileans first, or they could do the Argentinians first, because they don't have a spot in the turn order, so it's up to Germany to decide. But you do have to attack separately, of course. So, like, you can't just put these guys in here and then the next turn attack these guys with all four of them. You defend together. That's always been the case, but you can't attack together. So that's something that you need to note. And so if you're going to lend lease, you probably just want to lend lease to the Argentinians. Take the casualties off of the Chileans. Not fair, they're yelling, but just so that you can have all the units be attacking together eventually. Once you get a ways into the war. Anyway, so that's what it looks like. That's one of the changes that we're going to make, and there's going to be a lot of other ones. But this is one that we thought worked out really cool, and I'll show you how that turned out. So let me just get to that, and I'll be just a second. Okay, so I might as well just give you a little scan of how we ended our last playtest. So the game wasn't over, but we had seen enough and knew that that there were some changes that we'd like to make, and we wanted to go ahead and start a new playtest, and that'll start in a couple of weeks when we all have the time. We've got a group that are going to study. You see Germany that's taken over pretty good down there. Germany is doing really well up in Europe as well, and there was an issue with that, so we're going to take care of that too. But this is what we're here for. By the way, the Mexican Revolution still going on. America's entered the war, and the Mexican Revolution is happening, so it's further from being settled than it ever was. Anyway, just wanted to show you this. So the Americans had just gone to war, and they declared war on Germany, which meant that all of the territories, which the Argentinians and the Chileans had taken out all of Brazil. You can see some Americans here, but that's because the Americans on their turn came down and attacked that territory. I think that territory was empty. I can't remember. It's been a week or two since we finished. But you can see that the Americans came down there. Their navy has come down. But you can see how this can change the game a bit, because if it had gone the other way, if these were all American flags on here instead of German flags, then the Americans would be going great guns up into Europe, and they'd have some extra money. But instead, they have to go down here and they have to take out the Germans. The Germans got a lot of extra money there. I think 6 extra IPP for what they had down there. And you can see the American Navy. They're down here. Plus the ships over here had come from the West Coast. They're all trying to. These ships over here, I think they're trying to make it so that they can't get any Lend-Lease in that port. And we got a sub here to block the Lend-Lease, or at least try to take it out. They try to Lend-Lease through there. And the ships there, you see that dreadnought's been damaged for the longest time because there's no shipyards down here. So there was no place for the Argentinians to repair their dreadnought, and that's the way it was. But anyway, you can see what has happened there. And like I said, that kind of hurts the Americans because they don't have much left up there. They got 3 transports and 6 infantry to go over to Europe, but that's all they have because they've had to come down here. And so that's one of the effects that this can have, and that shows the importance of wanting to definitely lend lease over here, and not just to think, oh, it's just a little side thing going on. Like, it actually matters. And so you do have to take it seriously if you're both sides, because it can make a difference in the end of the game. Like this, for instance, is worth a point to the Americans. So it's Germans can take away a point, or the Americans can gain a point. That's a difference of 2 points there for having all of the Americas, for enforcing the Monroe Doctrine. But anyway, so I just wanted to show you that. I thought that you might find that interesting, how it played out in the end in the play test that we did. So thanks for joining me today, everyone. Take care. General Hand Grenade out.